Okay, so I've made some updates to the video timecode modifier. So basically the script that will sync up your videos and the timecode with your fit or activity to work better in Garmin Verb. And some of the main updates are like batch processing and a few updates to the Excel document too to make things a little easier. So I'll walk you through the usage of that. Um, I guess first of all, installation's gotten a little easier. So if you're on the forums and go to the thread, you can click on the link and it will bring you to releases. So installation wise, just click on the .zip file, which that will download, and everything's already pre-packaged now, so FFmpeg is included. You don't have to download that separately. So just open the zip file and drag over this folder to wherever you want it, and it will have all the scripts and everything included. Okay, so you open the folder. There's a couple. Well, one thing that's been added is this batch timecode process. And again, there's been some modifications made to the time conversion Excel document too. So I guess to start from the beginning, so Garmin Verb Edit, so the maps in it for syncing your activity with your data file got broken. So this tool will retime your video files and it will get those in sync with your data file, so you can just import them directly into Garmin Verb and not have to change start times or sync up your video or data file. So you'll start just download all your videos like normal. So you'll have if you're using GoPro or whatever camera it is, any of those should work. So you'll want to download your videos and rename those so when you sort them in Windows, they come up in sequential order. So I always rename mine with like a 001 and underscore to start with and then put all the files in sequential order. You can use a renaming tool, so I've used like this bulk rename utility, and you can highlight your your files in that directory and automatically rename those, for example. Or you can just manually do that too, whatever's easier for you. Okay, and so just kind of briefly looking at some of the changes in the Excel document and its usage. So we'll want to we'll want to find an event in both our video and our data file, and then we'll input that information into the kind of the tan areas of the Excel document, and that will do some time calculations and format conversion of the time stamping, so we can use that information to retime our video files. So to start with, you'll usually want to find an event on your fit file, and you'll want to find the exact timestamp of that. Easiest way to do that, most people use Strava, so open up Strava, and you can click on the flybys or view flybys, and that will bring up where you can basically play your activity file, and you'll want to find something like a turn, for example, which is easy to recognize in both your data file and your video file. So I've opened mine up. I've found basically where I'm starting to turn on this road here. You can use the navigation at the bottom to pan around in your activity. There's obviously zoom in, zoom out, and there's a play button here. There's also this slider. It starts normally on like 60x, so you'll want to get close to your turn and then probably dial this down to about 1x speed and then play it and then you can click this pause button here when it gets to where the turn is or where the event is. So this is basically the timestamp that we're looking for. And so I'll want to open up my video file and find that same turn. So that's actually on file 4 of my video data set. So I've opened that up in VLC, so I can play that file, and then I can, this is the turn here I'm looking for. So about right here is when I'm in the same spot on this video and in that data file. So once we have those two, so we'll open up our Excel document. Again, some of the updates to the Excel document, you can, this file number to sync, you can now sync to any file in your video set. So right now, looking in VLC, my video file is number 4 in the sequence. So again, I had multiple video files in the sequence, and that was file 4. So I input that number here, and then so inputting that file number basically makes the portion on the right here automatically add or subtract the right amount of time from that file, which I'll talk about in a bit. So again, time-wise, enter like your time zone offset. So I'm Central Time US, so I have -5. Enter your activity date, and then your activity file event time. So again, this is what you'll probably want to get from like Strava flybys. So again, that number is 9:53:57. So that's when this turn occurred. So enter that 9:53:57. Okay, and then the next thing we'll want to enter is video event time. So that's elapsed time into the video. So that's this VLC time here. So looking at the lower left, that's 12 minutes and 55 seconds into this file. So that's where we enter this 12:55. And then that gives us, down here, it gives us the start time of that video file. So the old method was to manually sync each video file using this video timecode modifier script, which that still works exactly the same. So to do that, if you're just wanting to sync one file at a time, you'll just click on that video file. So again, we were using file 4. Drag that over. And if you just downloaded the scripts, Windows will pop open this error because you got this off the internet. Just click run anyway. And it will pop up and say enter video timecode. So that's this cell here. You can just copy that. And again, to paste into a command prompt like this, you'll want to right click and it pasted in that timestamp, and then it'll automatically start processing that file. So this is modifying just the metadata of that video file to put a timestamp on there, and it should, again, it's not changing the video itself or the audio, it's only modifying the metadata. So it should go pretty quick. It's mostly just a file copy is what's going to take the longest, so it'll depend on the speed of your SSD or hard drive. But that will now output to a subfolder called TCF for timecode fix. And here's that outputted file. So this is file 4. It has the same name, it just added an underscore TCF to it. To verify that the time code was updated, I use a program called Media Info, which you can Google and download if you want. So I right click, go to media info, and that gives us the encoded date and tagged time. So you can open the Excel document and compare that encoded date. So it's 144102, which right here you can see matches the time code that we had in the Excel document. So that one was retimed. So that works perfectly well if you want to manually sync each file. But now there's an updated way to batch process all the video files to do it automatically, so you don't have to do that for each video file. So again, once all this information is in, it will have a section over here. So for GoPro and for most videos, most of the video files are going to be the same length. So looking in Windows, as long as your GoPro isn't dropping frames or you're not stopping and starting your recording in the middle of the data set, then those video files should be pretty consistent as far as length is concerned. So I can look in Windows. Again, all mine are 14 minutes and 56 seconds. You can also look at that in VLC, the lower right, 1456. And that shouldn't change unless you change your settings on your video camera. So as long as those are the same for different recordings, those should be consistent. So again, that 1456, so take that number and enter it into all these tan cells here, and you can just copy that number down to 1 through 40 on here. So what that is doing, so it's taking this, again, we did the timecode sync for file 4. So this file 4, which is the 144102, that should match up with this file 4. And then because we have the basically Excel doing automatic addition or subtraction of the minutes and seconds for all the other files, it automatically calculates the start time for up to 40 files in here, which should be plenty. But now we can use that data to automatically process all our video files. So in the Excel document, click over, there's a second tab now called Timecode Export CSV. So click on that. This information is mostly a copy from this table, just with these two columns removed. So click in here, click on File, and then do a Save As. And what we're wanting to do is export a CSV file. So a CSV is just comma separated. It has less information than a normal Excel document. So you'll click on this and change the format to CSV, and then just click Save. So this will come up with an error saying it. So a CSV file is a pretty simple file. It doesn't support like multiple sheets in Excel or any of that, and formatting like highlighting isn't supported either, which is fine for what we're doing. So click OK. Now you can just, when you do that, you do need to be on the second column because it's only going to export this information, that's all we're wanting. So now if you go back to the directory where the timecode conversion Excel document and these batch files are located, we'll have this timeconversion.csv file. So if I look at that file in like a text editor, again, it's pretty simple. It just has a comma separating those columns essentially. Okay, for the batch processing, so this CSV file is what it's going to look for. and just make sure you have all your timing set up in there and that's exported, and it needs to be in the same directory as this batch timecode process file. Okay, and so this batch timecode process, it will process any MP4 files, and it processes those in basically ascending order by name. So you do need to have your files named correctly, so when they're sorted in Windows, they show up in the correct order. And then to start the process, just take the first file, click, and drag it over. And again, if it's the first time you downloaded this, it'll give you this error. Click on that button, run anyway. And so this is using that CSV file that has all our timing information for each one of our files. And it's processing, again, every MP4 file in order with the timecode information from that CSV file. So again, should go pretty quick. Depends on the speed of your SSD, but this will automatically do that instead of having to manually input the timecode for each file. So we'll let that process. So again, I manually processed that file 4 earlier, which is why it's asking me if I want to overwrite, which I'll go ahead and click on Y and then enter. Normally you're not going to see that unless you already have existing files that you've done this on. Okay. Okay, so that's completed. Again, everything's processed and put into this TCF folder. So this should have automatically done all that processing. So we can also check some of our files if we want. So you can open the CSV or the original Excel file. And I'll click over to the second tab. So let's look at file 5. So if I right click on that and go to media info, again it shows the encoded date and time, which is at 14:55:58. So if I look at file 5 over here, it's 14:55:58. So that one looks good too. Again, all of those should have been processed in order. Okay, so all these are in sync now, and we can now import those directly into Garmin Virb. So I've created a new project, have my output files, so let's just do let's see, we'll do that same file 4. So if I drag that over, put it onto my timeline. So my camera's upside down, so I'll go to editing, rotate 180. And now we can import our basically our fitness file. So click on Gmetrics, go to data and import. So again, the mapping, the manual sync is all broken in Garmin Virb right now, so you'll get a script error. You can click no. Click on my computer, and then you'll normally want to basically export your fit file. You can do that through Garmin Connect, or if you're in Strava, on your ride, click on the 3 dots and click on Export Original. That will download that fit file, which is what you're looking for. So click and drag that over. Click on Use this log. And then To verify that things are in sync, we'll click on templates. And I usually look for this template, which has this course at the top, which is usually about the easiest. And let's see. See if we can find that same turn in here, make sure it's in sync. Okay. So, click play here. I'm doing a screen recording, so it's pretty slow, but we should see this update here in a little bit when we make this turn here. Yours should be going faster, but... So yeah, that's turning at the same time, so we know that one's in sync. Everything's looking good there. Then from there, you can just drag over all your other files, do the same thing to sync those up. So one other thing to note, so if you use some other video processing programs, for example, so like I use DaVinci Resolve for some color correcting and things like that. If you import the files into other programs, a lot of those other programs can read the timecode too. So that might be useful for you, may not be. But you can look at that as well. And yeah, going through that process, doing the batch processing should make it a little easier, especially if you have quite a few files. And yep, that's it.